Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new malicious compliance stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, "You Want to Order Parts Online After I Explain You Are Making a Huge Mistake, Go Through It." We owned an auto repair shop for years. Until the mid-2000s it was rare for a customer to provide their own parts for basic repairs, but then people discovered online shopping. Most of the time we explained they were not saving much money and that we wouldn't warranty the part, which meant if it failed the customer was going to have to pay the labor to have us removed so they could return the part and get a new one for us to reinstall. Whereas if we provided the part we would warranty it. Most of the times the savings was minimal and not worth chancing it. But on occasion the price difference was significant, and that's where the headaches started. A customer brought her car in because it was overheating. We diagnosed it and quoted her about $500 for the repairs, new T-stat, radiator and hose. Hers was badly cracked, and while it didn't leak it was going to at some point soon, plus labor and coolant. $250 of that was for her radiator. She says okay to the job. Then husband calls and says hell no. He sees a radiator online for $129 and we are ducking him over. Lucky me takes the call. I ask where he sees said radiator and he tells me shitparts.com. I don't remember the site, so I look it up and explain it's a universal radiator, meaning it can be used in several models of whatever brand car it was. But for each model you had to do something like punching out hole A or B, snipping a tab off, etc. In other words, you had to alter it, make it fit, and by altering you voided the warranty. I also explained a radiator is under pressure and by having different holes to punch out made it inherently weaker. He argued that because I'm a woman I have no idea what I'm talking about and I just want to charge him higher prices so I made more money to spend at the mall. Now I was used to the "you have boobs you can't know cars" mindset, and it really didn't bother me, but saying I wanted money to go to the mall crossed the line. I hate ducking mall shopping. It was like he knew that would upset me. So I told him just to come get the car, we were not gonna work on his crap, and hung up. My husband was standing next to me laughing and was surprised that's all I said. He was completely on board with not doing the job and always backed me up if I refused to take a job. We were always busy and didn't need to deal with people who were assholes. His kryptonite was crying women, and sure enough the wife comes in crying that she really wants us to do the work. My husband caves and says okay and explains why they shouldn't order the radiator from shitparts.com. She understands and agrees to use ours. Once again her husband gets upset, but instead of calling he comes into the shop. He refuses to talk to me, so I get my husband. He explains same thing I told him and the guy still insists on ordering the radiator from shitparts.com. We cave and say okie dokie. Malicious compliance sets in and we make him sign a waiver that explains why the part may fail, why it won't be warranted, and that we will charge him remove and replace labor if we have to replace it. His wife is without her car for the week while we wait for the radiator, and I'm sure you can guess it failed. Didn't even last a week before the other hole blew out. They pay to have car towed back to shop. I call and ask if they want to have me get a new one and just get a refund from shitparts.com, or if they want to exchange theirs. Nope, husband insists on exchanging theirs. They pay to have faulty radiator pulled. Pay to ship it back. Wife is without a car for another 2 weeks when Shitparts says they won't warranty the radiator because it's been altered. Wife finally has enough and tells us to ignore husband and just fix the car. He never comes back, but she remained a loyal customer, and after they get divorced a couple years later she told me that radiator ended up being $129 plus $59 shipping and $90 to ship it back, $175 to have her car towed, $200 for a rental car while they waited for the first one, and $325 for the second rental until she said duck it. Plus the credit card fees. The best part was in their divorce she used all of that along with the $500 to do the job the second time to show how financially irresponsible he was, and had saddled them with debts they could have avoided, so the judge made his responsible for all their credit card debt. The next one is titled, Auto Parts Store Hell. When I was younger I was a parts service manager, read the exact same as the regular parts service person but wore a different colored shirt at a place that rhymes with blotto bone. Background: we were always at the mercy of the computer systems when looking up parts, so a typical customer interaction would be them asking for a part and me having to ask what seemed like 15 follow-up questions that the computer must know in order to provide the correct part. Because despite what most people may or may not know, there are a lot of variances in some vehicle models. For example, for a pickup truck would be year, make, model, 1500, 2500 and 3500s, tow package, what engine, what transmission, etc. 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 Customers would even give the vehicle color sarcastically at times because of how many questions were asked, while others were irate having to answer all of these questions like I'm doing it on purpose because I love talking to them. Gentleman walks in and approaches me at the counter. Customer: need a water pump for a 350 me, sure, what year vehicle? Customer: upset, it doesn't matter. Me: well, I needed to look up the correct part in the system to get you what you need. Customer: still irate, just get a water pump for a 350 Chevy, it doesn't matter what vehicle. Me: blank stare, alright. Punch some keys into the system and pull up a water pump for a 350 Chevy. From a rather expensive and rare car, go back and grab the water pump and tell the gentleman I'll meet him at the cash register. I scan the item and ring it up. Me: that'll be $327 after tax, sir. Customer: what? For a goddamned water pump? Me: yes sir. Customer: it doesn't cost that much. Me: you said it didn't matter what vehicle it was for, this is for a Chevy 350 sir. Customer: mumbling quietly, it's for an 86 Chevy 1500. I punch the information into the system and grab the correct water pump for his needs and return to the register. Me: that'll be $24 sir. Typical interaction with some of the clowns you have to deal with in retail. For reference for anyone that cares, I originally gave him a water pump for a 95 Corvette ZR1, which not only was a rare vehicle but had a motor that was a completely different animal from the average 350 motors slapped into everything else. The next one is titled, I don't care, just have a drink at the hotel. Clearly my life is full of crap, enough to post here. This happened in Asia, so I hope it still makes sense in this community. So my parents are cheapskates with terrible time management and Googling skills. They had to attend a friend's son's wedding banquet at a prestigious hotel. My mum, being the person like she is, fusses over her makeup, dress, took forever to get ready when no one cares, and hence resulting in them being late. They intended to take a taxi over, but because they're running late, they had to drive. Having to drive, they'll need to find a place to park a car. So this city, parking is expensive everywhere. They called and asked me to Google places for parking and their prices. I provided a list of them but not the hotel itself, seeing it'll be $10 per hour, which is quite steep. There's a parking right opposite the hotel charging around $3 per hour. This is reasonable. They called me back and asked me if I wanted to dine at the hotel with a friend. They've looked up the hotel's website. You can dine at any restaurant for 3 hours free parking. My question is, how much is it to dine there just to get free parking? Also, will the wedding just be 3 hours? My mother insisted that I could just eat anything there, maybe grab a coffee or a beer. She hung up and told my dad to park at the hotel. But I've also Googled the hotel, and from what I see, you get free parking for a minimum spending of $100 at any restaurant, or spend any amount at the Italian restaurant with the cheapest dish is $30 for a starter. I kept calling them to tell them that, but my mum insisted to have me go to the cafe and just get a cake, drink. Why can't you guys just park the car at the opposite parking lot? Eat at the cafe. But minimum spending is $100. I can't just eat at any restaurant to spend any amount. I don't care. Just go to the cafe. Have a drink at the hotel. I will ensure the parking coupon will be given. They cut off the line. And I got upset. You want me to dine at the cafe? I will dine at the cafe. I ordered a piece of cake and a beer. Don't question me on the combo, but that's the most expensive thing on the menu that I wanted. The beer was like a normal beer, and the cake was crap. I spent $20. I went to ask for their parking coupon. Of course I was denied because there was no $100 spending. My parents said I wasn't asking for the manager to do it. They went to the concierge. The manager said they cannot give us a coupon. The parking ended up $30 US, and to top that off, $20 US of my cafe expenses, in opposed to the $9 US parking fee at the other parking lot. They were devastated and still witching about it. And I had to spend hours at the hotel just to wait for them, but get free beer and cake. Not Wi-Fi though, great. The next one is titled, A Case of Old-Fashioned Sexism Backfired on a Landlord. So this MC is actually my sister's doing, but it's such a great story I feel I have to share. My sister and the boyfriend recently rented a new house together. The estate agent, realtor for the US folks, suggested that during the initial process of renting, it would be easier to just put one of their names on the rental agreement, and then add the second name once they were moved in, so they go ahead and fill out all the paperwork in just the boyfriend's name. For the purpose of this story, sister is Amy Regina and her boyfriend is Andy Boyfriend. A few weeks after they move in, my sister contacts the landlord to add her name to the rental agreement as recommended. The landlord sends over the new contract with the names Mr. Andy Boyfriend and Mrs. Amy Boyfriend. My sister assumes this is just a misunderstanding, so she drops the landlord an email confirming that her name is actually Miss Amy Regina and that she and the boyfriend aren't married. The landlord doesn't reply, but they assume that he has gone ahead and corrected the rental agreement, that is, until their next rent statement comes through the door addressed once again to Mrs. Amy Boyfriend. My sister calls the landlord and explains the problem again and asks them to please change the rental agreement to the correct name. It's pretty common for you to be required to provide a rental agreement in your name as proof of address here, so it's important that it's got her legal name on it, but they blow her off. I only heard about the conversation secondhand, so I don't know exactly what was said, but the impression we got was that the landlord was disapproving of an unmarried couple living together, hence his reluctance to change the names on the contract. Now here comes the malicious compliance. My sister ignores the rent statement and doesn't pay up. A week goes by and the landlord is back on the phone furious about why she hasn't paid. My sister politely informs the landlord that she hasn't received any rent statements, but they have been getting a lot of posts addressed to a Mrs. Boyfriend who doesn't live at the property or, indeed, exist, so maybe the statement got mixed up with that? Sure enough, a new rent statement, along with a corrected rental agreement, arrived the next day, addressed to Mr. Andy Boyfriend and Miss Amy Regina. The next one is titled, Buying Sneakers, A. Let me show you our full catalog. So about 6 years ago, after I graduated high school, I used to work at a popular sneaker store in my local mall. I had worked there for about 6 months when a scandal happened with our management and the store got almost completely restaffed. Both of our managers were brand new, along with most of the sales associates. I had the longest tenure of anybody in the store. Now, the store policy was to try to upsell the customers who bought sneakers, get them to buy shoe cleaner, insoles, t-shirts, shorts, etc. This helped the store's numbers, and offered a small incentive for sales associates. When I first started working there, I tried to follow this guidance, but quickly realized that 90% of customers weren't interested, and it actually just wasted time that could have been spent helping the next customer. The change of management happened right at the end of the summer, just before the back-to-school season, which was usually our busiest time of the year. The store was constantly busy, and our new manager, who was a dick, insisted that all sales associates followed the upselling policy to a T. I tried to tell him that this was going to cause problems, as the volume of customers wouldn't really allow us the time for this. He didn't care. He told us we needed to follow our training and do as we were told. You got it, champ. The next Saturday, our store really started getting busy. I was helping a customer try on some basketball shoes, and they told me they wanted to purchase them and started walking towards the counter. Remembering my strict instructions, I then proceeded to remove the insoles of the shoes, and inserted some new ones that we sold, and asked if they would like to try them on and see how they feel. They told me, no thank you. I then grabbed a shoe cleaning kit from behind the counter and asked if I could demonstrate how it worked. I grabbed our demo shoe and began cleaning it with the kit. The customer, obviously getting annoyed at this point, told me they weren't interested. I kept cleaning, doing the whole routine I was taught. The line for the cashier was getting pretty long at this point, and many of the customers in line were getting frustrated with the hold-up. Nevertheless, I then went and grabbed a few shirts off the rack that matched the shoes, and asked if the customer wanted to purchase one. After getting told no, again, I grabbed some socks and asked the same question. The customer was now furious, and asked to speak to my manager. I called out my manager, and told him exactly what happened. He looked up at the line, which was now nearly out into the hallway of the mall. He told me to just ring them up and hurry up getting the line down. He never bothered me about policy after that. The next one is titled, Take Meds That I've Repeatedly Told You I'm Allergic To. Okay, have fun with the fallout. So some background. I'm moderately allergic to all anti-inflammatory meds, which sucks ass but isn't super rare. What is my reaction, which I've never seen as a reaction before or since. All of my joints lock up and I'm completely unable to move. It's not fun and people tend not believe me when I tell them about it. A few years ago, I worked at the big brown package place, which I had absolutely no business doing seeing as I'm seriously tiny, but I needed the money, and as expected, I got hurt. I dislocated my shoulder twice. The second dislocation was so violent that it completely destroyed the ligaments in my shoulder and I had to have them replaced. This led me to the pain management rehab clinic. The guy in charge of me, honestly don't remember what he was, but definitely not a doctor, wanted to put me on a course of seriously heavy steroids to try to reduce the swelling, and thus the pain. I told yet again, we'd already had this conversation at least 3 other times by this point, that it wasn't an option for me. He kept at me about it, i.e., maybe you won't react like that with this brand, blah blah blah, and something in me snapped. I told him fine, I'd do it, but that I wanted it in writing, his signature, and a witnessed signature that he was taking full responsibility for whatever the outcome was. He readily agreed since he didn't think I was telling the truth about the allergy. I have no idea why, because honestly I would have killed to be able to take them because they would have been the only thing to actually help my recovery. So I took the steroids and as predicted, complete lockdown. 1 EpiPen and an ambulance ride later, I was fine but seriously upset. I gathered all my records from the visit and his written statement and made an appointment with the clinic's big boss. I gave him all the paperwork and told him what happened. He went pale and begged me to give him a chance to fix this. I agreed but said that if I wasn't satisfied with the outcome, it would be dealt with by my lawyer. As I came out of the office I saw the useless guy. He asked me how my shoulder was doing and if the steroids had helped. I couldn't help it, I smirked and said that he'd find out. Long story short, he got fired and then blacklisted in the medical community. I was satisfied and finished out my time with a wonderful pain management therapist. The next one is titled, You Don't Believe I Have Breathing Problems. Okie dokie. Personally I have many friends who have asthma and I always gave them crap for it, like calling their inhalers vape pens around teachers for fun. Well, one day my old friend Karma showed up and I had a very hard time breathing. I was absent from school for 2 days because my parents thought I had pneumonia, but then the results from the doctor came back and confirmed that it wasn't pneumonia, but was actually just a really bad respiratory infection, or something like that. I was allowed to go back to school, but I had to use an inhaler. I'm in marching band and we practice every morning before school and my first class is English right after. I showed up a few minutes late to English one day and I explained to my teacher it was because I had a coughing fit and even showed her my inhaler. This continued throughout the whole week. The following week I showed up late again because I have having a hard time breathing, and when I got to class my teacher said she wanted to talk with me in the hall. She tells me she has looked at my student information and that my health sheet didn't state that I have asthma. I explained to her that I didn't have asthma but a respiratory infection. She, however, denied my claims and accused me of vaping in the bathrooms and using a fake inhaler as a cover-up, saying, "You don't actually have a respiratory problem, you just wheeze and cough because you vape." She then proceeded to confiscate my inhaler. I told her that I won't make it through the day without it, but she said that I could because I don't have any real breathing problems, so I found a way to make sure I wouldn't make the day without it. This is my MC. My next class was automotives class all the way across campus and the walk was pretty much uphill. I speed walked all the way there and started having trouble breathing. Today I had to work on this minivan that was having some exhaust problems. I insisted that I would be the one observing the exhaust system and that my partner could have the easy part of the job, so my partner turned on the car and I observed the exhaust systems. I had an even harder time breathing, getting so bad that I had a major coughing fit and passing out, which wasn't my intention. I woke up in the nurse's office with a breathing machine strapped to my face. I don't know what they're called. My parents were there and relieved that I was okay, but also mad because they thought I had left my inhaler home. When I told them that my English teacher confiscated it, they were furious. They yelled at the principal and the teacher ended up getting a 2-week suspension without pay. The last one is titled, Sure, I'll Open the Door. Many moons ago, 14 years worth if anyone is really counting, I was a senior in high school on blood drive day. If you were 17 plus, you could make an appointment, leave class for at least half an hour and go down to the gym to give blood. You even got cookies out of the deal, so of course my friend, let's call her F, and I signed up. Being 17, neither of us had given blood before, but we were both robust, active teenagers and got through the poking, draining with no issues, eating our cookies and milking the clock as much possible, being forced out of the gym. We walked back to class with no issues. Listened to 15 minutes of calculus with no issues. Minute 16 hits an ICF out of the corner of my eye, looking a little off. I lean over to her and ask if she's okay. She just shakes her head a little and closes her eyes. Minute 17. I'm watching her, waiting for her to slump over in a faint or something, and she turns green. Gross, paint water after doing a landscape green. To date, this is the only time in my life I have seen a person's face that putrid shade. I had always thought turning green was an expression. Oh no. It's real and it's a precursor to much unpleasantness. I jumped to my feet, pulled F up, stammered, "She's not feeling well," to the confused teacher and dragged her out the door, hightailing it to the bathroom. We get about halfway there and she whispered, "I'm not going to make it." My brain went into crisis mode and I closed the door to the nearby classroom, pulled the lid off the trash can and helped hold her hair back as she lost what must have been a week's worth of food along with those cookies. About 5 seconds after the door swung shut, our resident hall teacher flung it back open from the inside, spitting out, "Don't ever close my door. You don't have the right to close it." In his anger, he obviously didn't see F puking her guts out. I calmly let go of F, looked at him and pushed the door open as wide as possible, showing the entire classroom what was happening in the hallway. He finally noticed, but by then, so had the rest of his room. 2 of his students' chain reaction, sympathy puked, and at least one of those did not hit a trash can. The rest of the class was in chaos, scrambling away from anyone who was sick. F finally finishes and stands up. I put the lid back on the can and grabbed her around the waist because she's still a little wobbly. I made eye contact with the hall teacher one more time before I walked her down to the office so she could call home. Of course I left his door open. Thanks for listening.